Welcome to the first episode of Stevie D's Bruins Buzz. That's all right, I can edit that out. I'm here live with Gary G. Hikes and myself, and we're doing our first show here on YouTube. What we'd like to do, though, is ask all of you to subscribe to our channel so that we can have 1,000 subscribers and do live shows. So if you can do that for us, that'll be great. It's a week before the season starts, and I've got G. Hikes here to give his opinion on what's happening so far at training camp.
Okay. All right, Stevie. Well, thank you very much for inviting me on today. So far in the preseason, I've taken a few notes. Went to a game already. Went to one on Wednesday when the Bruins played the Washington Capitals. But anyway, so far I've seen some of the standouts so far. Matt Frazier, he's been filling in for Lucic while his wrist has been healing. He's put himself in a pretty good position to make the team with a couple of key goals in a few exhibition games. I think he's earned a spot on the third or the fourth line. As you remember, the Bruins picked him up from Dallas last year. He almost made the team last year, and he's basically pretty much been a career AHL player. In 179 games, he's scored 90 goals and 5 more in the postseason. But don't forget, when the Bruins brought him up at the end of the year, he scored that big overtime goal last May against the Habs in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. So I think that he's definitely earned a spot. Another guy who's been kind of a standout this year in training camp is Brad Marchand. Last year, as you remember, he got off to a slow start, came out of the gate kind of slow, ended up scoring 25 goals, but he's the first to admit, too, that he could train a lot harder. So during the offseason, I guess his training, as I was reading it said sprints, and more sprints. So he's hoping that this will pay off, especially late in the games. He's going to feel stronger, a little quicker, and a little more confident. Bergeron, Patrice Bergeron as well. He's also a little bit a step ahead from last year, and he's dedicated, one of the team leaders, and no surprise there, being the Selke Award winner that he is. Also, too, Bruins top pick, David Pastrnak, he suffered a bruised shoulder in practice last week. He still hasn't played in a game, and the Bruins are hoping to get him into at least a game or two before the season starts. But going forward, it's going to be tough for him to make the team. And in some aspects, I know that he looked pretty good in the camp. Scoring and blending in with the first line a little bit. But, on the flip side of that, too, I remember when the Bruins brought up Joe Thornton, when he was the first-round pick, he actually, should have probably spent the first year in juniors, but the Bruins had him past the 9 games, and they couldn't send him down to the minors. So, in one aspect, with all the talent the Bruins have going forward, it may be good to sit him down and let him play juniors for one more year. Gregory Campbell, he's also injured. He's been fighting through the injury bug. Dougie Hamilton, he's logged a lot of ice time, and he looks good. He scored a big goal in the victory over the Wings last night, and he's been improving in his playmaking, and he seems to be playing a little bit more physical now, and I think the maturity level is finally kicking in. I noticed that in the game the other night, and Villaleno, he's looked pretty good so far in camp. He scored a game winner goal versus the Caps the other night, and Luch also did play last night. He got off to a little bit of a rough start. He got whistled for 3 penalties, I guess, in the first period. But he's hoping that once he gets a game or two more on his belt, he'll get his timing back for the regular season. Some of the other guys, Jordan Caron, I guess that he's had some spurts where he's looked pretty good. And Seidenberg and McQuaid. I know that McQuaid the other night when I went to the game on Wednesday, he looked very sharp and very physical out there. And Seidenberg is Seidenberg. I think that people were concerned a little bit about his health, but I think he'll be good. One other thing, Steve, that we should probably talk a little bit about is Torrey Krug and Riley Smith. They
Yes.
still remain unsigned, okay? And from what I was reading, I think that Chiarelli, first of all, this is the first time in Peter Chiarelli's administration that they've actually have had unsigned players going into camp.
Right.
But basically what it comes down to is the salary cap, and I think the Bruins they have under $4 million to play with. It's like 3.7 mils. So what I'm looking at is right now, I think they could only sign one of those two guys. However, they keep on talking about possibly making a trade. And I don't know. I mean, they talk about, I hear the name Boychuk mentioned because he's going to be a free agent next year. And I've also heard, Chris Kelly. But tell me, Stevie D, what do you feel as far as where the Bruins are going to go with that?
Well, first of all, a Krejci deal put them in this jam because
This is true.
took a lot of the money that they could have used for this season. Signing Krejci was good, but I think they wasted a lot of money. They're going to have to make a deal because we need Krug. Smith, we need to. Erickson, Smith came over in that trade for Sagan, as we know, and Smith was the sleeper in that deal. And we don't want to lose them. So the deal is, who do you trade for? you know?
Right.
Maybe give up one of our prospect goalies. I don't know. And like Boychuk's probably the simple reason because we are loaded with defensemen.
Right. Plus the fact, too, as of right now, he's probably, between him and Kelly, personally myself, if I could, I'd probably trade Kelly. But
Yes.
as of right now, Boychuk, I think, is a lot more marketable. There are a lot of teams out there that could use his services. Also, too, like you were mentioning about Torrey Krug and Riley Smith. And especially, too, the Bruins had one of the best power plays in the league last year. And
Yes,
the reason why.
about.
The reason why they were so successful was because they had Krug in the back as like the quarterback, and they could put Zdeno Chara up front. And, it's funny, me and Steve, we were actually communicating during the game on Wednesday. I was at the game, and me and Steve were talking about how the Bruins power play didn't look too great when they had Chara at the point. So I turned around to Steve and I sent him a message and I said, well, they need to get Chara in front of there, because that makes such a big difference between his screening, and he's got that nice swoop swing to pick up any of those rebounds and put them in. And sure enough, that's what he did. He scored the power play goal that ended up being the winning goal. But that's the whole thing. You can't have something for nothing. If we're going to have him up front, we need Torrey Krug at that point
Right.
to be the quarterback on that power play.
Yeah, because when we were texting, we were saying that they missed Chara in front of that net.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, in the third period, they put him in front of the net and boom, goal.
Yeah.
And Krug is just ever since he came to the team, that power play has improved dramatically. And that to me, the whole team, I don't know. As my friends know, I could be the critical one. They call me negative. I say critical. But there's just, I don't know. What do you think going into the season? Do you think they're going to be a better team than last year, or the same, or worse?
Well, I look at them probably being pretty much just about the same. Because, if you really think about it, it's a little bit different now with the playoffs. In previous years, you would have your first place team play your eighth place team in the conference. But now the conference is broken down into divisions. Right. So now it's basically what it comes down to a lot is the matchups. Yep. If the Bruins had played the Rangers in the second round, they would have beaten the Rangers.
Right.
But they didn't. They played against Montreal, and they had trouble with Montreal all year. They had trouble with them, and they ended up having trouble with them, obviously, in the playoffs where they lost. But like you were pointing out too, Steve, is like with the power play and the killing penalties. Special teams are so big, especially too this year with some of the new rule changes and stuff like that. There's probably going to be more penalties, especially on the from the get-go at the beginning of the season.
Right.
And
we'll go over them in a few.
yeah, right. But the special teams is always big, and we need both of them to be shining. It's funny. Last year, the Bruins power play unit is usually one of the best in the league. It was still okay, but at the same time, it wasn't as sharp as it had been. And I think some of that had to do with Kelly going down, where then they started using Krejci a little bit more, and they may have spread him a little bit too thin as far as that goes, because I don't think that he was used to that kind of workload. And I think in the playoffs it showed where if you really look at that series against Montreal, if Luch or Krejci, if one of those two guys got hot, they would have won.
Right. Well, nobody was hot.
Right. That was the whole thing. Everybody went cold at the wrong time.
And I don't know, see how you feel about this. I don't see Krejci as the goal scorer of this team. Krejci is a playmaker.
Yeah,
Can he score? Sure.
Yeah, he's an Adam Oates.
Yes, he's the Adam Oates, and we don't have a Brett Hull.
Right, we don't.
Lucic is Lucic could be a great player. He's just too inconsistent. Everyone's talking about that. I've been saying it for years. I love the guy. I would not want to see him in another uniform, but he just needs to show up. You don't know what you're going to get one game, and he has this habit of throwing the puck out to the point, and half the time he does it, there's nobody there, or it goes down the other end of the ice. Matter of fact, do you want to take...
Let's take a look at that.
We'll take a look at it coming up here. Okay, here's what I'm talking about. Watch when Lucic gets the puck. Off his stick, and nobody there. Now, the defenseman brings it back in. Now watch how they carry the puck in. Here's Lucic coming up the center. Here he goes. Where's he going? What do they got? Free beer back there? You saw the highlight. He just takes that puck and he throws it down to the point, and he does that at least once a game.
Yeah. And, you really can't, the giveaway, takeaway, especially too when you're in the offensive zone, you really have to be careful in where you're passing the puck to. You just can't pass it blindly. And, another thing that Luch, I think, that has a big issue with is trying to bring the puck out of his own zone. Most of the time he lets the defenseman do that, but when he does try to bring it out of his own zone, he usually ends up losing the puck. He just doesn't have that drive as far as like the consistency that you're talking about, Steve.
When he gets that puck on our blue line and starts barreling down the ice, he's dangerous.
Yeah, he is.
But it's almost like anywhere, or if he's around in the corners, if he's not throwing it out to the point, if he's near the net, he's dangerous.
Yes.
But anywhere else on the ice, he just seems to,
right.
It's like he does not know what to do with the puck.
He's dangerous in the wrong ways.
Yes.
But he's dangerous in the right way around the net. That's for sure.
And he's the most
say.
intimidating player in the NHL.
Yeah.
The players voted him in as that.
Sure.
So, no, I don't want to lose him. And can he be the next Cam Neely? We already know no. But he can be a very, very productive player.
Yeah.
I don't expect these guys to be 100% every night. It's especially these back-to-back games. I could do a whole show on why I'm against those. But he needs to just show up and do his job, and the whole team needs to play 60 minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't check out last night's stats, but we've watched from streaming all the exhibition games. Besides the one, the Washington game, I think the one you were at, that we won. Yeah, we won that 2-0. Again, they cannot hang on to a lead. It does not matter who's in net. It does not matter who's on the ice. It does not matter who we're playing. They can't seem to protect a lead. And I'm sorry, but that I blame coaching.
Yeah.
What say you on that?
Well, I agree with you, Steve, because what happens is the Bruins, they get up by a couple of goals, and then they just play they
Prevent
play
defense.
they play prevent defense and they play puck possession,
Right.
which is fine, but at the same time it's like it kind of shuts them off offensively, whereas you'd like to see them just continue to play the same way and maybe pick up a few more goals.
Right.
I mean, I don't know, those 3-1 and 2-1 games, they get kind of hairy at the end, I
Yeah.
mean, and we've seen that happen where it comes back at them, and then they end up into overtime or shootouts, which hasn't been one of their great fortes. I think last year their shootout record was what was it, 3-6.
Right.
So, and overtime was 4-3. So they're a little bit better than 500.
Yeah, I
So.
think they have 9 in the loss column. They have 9 points from lost points. They basically had, or 9 points that they gained. It's confusing because they have 54 total wins. 51 of them were regular game winnings. So they, like you say, they won on shootouts 3 games, and that gave them a total of 54. And most of those games, like you say, were games that they blew and went into overtime. They only had technically 19 losses last year.
Right.
That's remarkable.
Right, it is.
Which brings me to another point. See, I'm the old timer here, folks, and I go back to '69, and I remember the days of war and all that, and so does G. Ikes, but they got into this bad habit in the 80s and 90s of winning the division, blowing up the league all season, and getting knocked out of the first round of the playoffs.
Right.
And I don't want to see that pattern happen again.
No.
Because I don't know whether they exhaust themselves and they just don't have it in the playoffs, but
Yeah, they got hot at the wrong time last year because
Right.
going down the stretch, I think they had a roll of it was like 15-4 or something like that down the stretch.
I think the
And-
month of March or something. They
Yeah.
were they only lost like 2 games.
Right. They peaked. They kind of peaked at the
Right.
at the wrong time, But as far as it's funny. This President's Trophy has become kind of like the kiss of death for a lot of teams. I mean,
Yes.
look at how many times Vancouver won it and they'd get knocked out in the first round. I think that 2 years ago, I think the Blackhawks were the first team since the Detroit Red Wings back in the late '90s to actually win the President's Trophy and the Stanley Cup because it's a very difficult to go that way. As far as the Bruins President's Trophy goes, I think that they, as well as they played, they kind of lucked into it because St. Louis looked like that they were going to be the clear winners of that President's Trophy, and then they ended up getting into a bad spell in March, and that's when the Bruins ended up taking over the President's Trophy. But yeah, I mean, I just think that it's tough to try to balance things out, but when you can balance things out, that's where you put yourself in a good position to go far into the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only sport where every single game counts is football. A win's a win, but you're not going to win 82 hockey games.
No.
But it's like one season back, I remember the Canadians and the Bruins met in the opening round. I think the Canadians won in 6 or 7 games. And it was like 2007 or 8, I can't remember. But the Bruins finished second that year, and had they beat the Canadians once more there, I think it was there was one they were playing a lot. They were playing like 8 games against them. And Montreal won that series like 5 games to 3 or 6 games to 2. Had the Bruins just won one more game, that was 4 points.
Right.
And it was like 2 points to separate the Bruins from the Canadians for first place. So the divisional games like that, they're important. But, you have a bad night out in L.A. or, the one time you play them a year, you shrug that off and you move on.
Right.
And you learn from it in case you meet them in the finals, But I'm in agreement with you that this team, I don't see them, they could improve. There's always room for improvement. But I don't know if you're going to see the same record, the 54-19 that you saw last year.
That's going to be a tough one. to accomplish that 2 years in a row. Which, you know what, but in one aspect, you know what, maybe it'll give them a much more balanced season in a way too. You know, maybe they'll get hot at the right time going
Right.
into the playoffs.
And it's going to be time. I tell you, if you're a rookie wanting to make this team, you're a player that ever wants to bust out and have a permanent career in the NHL. This is the season with the Bruins because there's a lot of room.
Yeah.
And
Right. Hey, Steve, tell me something. You know, we're talking about, you know, the Bruins and how the goal scoring left them in that second round against Montreal. And, of course, we know that one of the players who actually played halfway decent in that series and scored a couple of goals was Jerome McGinley, who's no longer with the Bruins. Now, the Bruins' plan right now is to have Louis Eriksson take his spot on that top line. Do you think that he's going to be able to get back to his old Dallas days and maybe put that puck in the net 30 times?
it depends on if Krejci becomes the playmaker. You can't have two guys trying to be a goal scorer out there. I mean,
Right.
of course we want them both to score, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
You can't have two Brett Hulls. You need so if Krejci could be the Adam Oates and set him up, yeah. And
Yeah.
if Lucic could play Lucic hockey instead of that other guy,
Right, exactly.
yeah, I think that's definitely possible.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I think the whole thing with Erickson is, you remember last year he had 2 concussions. He got off
Right.
to a rough start. He's trying to get used to a new system. And then, you know, he seemed to play much better at the end of the year when he got healthy. So, you know, as long as he stays healthy and these guys are, you know, feeding him the puck, there's no reason why he can't do like Jerome McGinley, because we saw him do it in Dallas. And you know, hopefully he can do it in Boston as well.
Yeah, definitely. He definitely was traded for Sagan for a reason. You know, they saw something in him they like, and I don't know. He's definitely a Bruin, but he reminds me of a Rick Middleton type.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
But yeah, I definitely like to see him. I'd be happy if he gets 25.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Well, you know, if Luch has a breakout season and really plays well between him, Luch usually gets around 30 goals.
Right.
So if Luch could get a few more goals and Erickson can get somewhere between 20 and 25, that line should be playing very well.
Now you mentioned a name that I wanted to bring up. Who, again, another player that. He can be, to me, one of the top 5 players in the AHL. His puck handling skills are remarkable. But now you're going to know I'm talking about Marchand. Because the problem with Marchand is the cheap stuff, the dirty stuff. He needs to stop being a dirty player, getting the stupid penalties. Hey, you know, he's a Bruin. He's tough. He wants to get in there and, you know, cause and stir up some emotion. But the cheap stuff, the referees watch it, and then he gets no breaks.
Right.
And the cheap guys don't get it, and he's getting the bad reputation. If he would concentrate on hockey, the guy would be unbelievable. And I think he led the team in scoring last year, correct?
Well, I think Luch did, but he was up there in the top anyways. He had
Goals,
25
anyway.
goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he had he scored more assists in his career than he had before too.
Right.
So, like I said, if he can just put a full season together, but I agree with you too, because let's face it, in the playoffs against Montreal, if my memory recalls correctly, he took some stupid penalties,
Oh, absolutely.
and especially too this year when the referees are starting to clamp down on more different penalties and stuff like that. You know, like for instance, one of the new rules this year is if a player is possessing the puck and you go to whack the puck away from him and you trip him. Years ago, you know, it used to be that you weren't called for a penalty. Well, now they're going to start calling penalties. So, and that's just like normal play. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
They're micromanaging.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
because
So,
you're playing the puck.
yeah,
And if your stick trips the guy, oh well. A lot of times that would happen on a breakaway. The guy from behind would dive
right.
and hook his stick, trip him, and he'd still get the puck. Yeah, that I could see. But you're right. When you're coming in from the side and you do a sweep check, you don't see
Yeah.
no more. Yeah, the guy trips over the stick. You talk about diving, which is another penalty they're finally going to
Right.
enforce. So
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Steve. Why don't we do this? Why don't we go over? I
the rule
printed
changes.
I printed this out, and this is the NHL rule changes. This is right from the pages of the NHL.com.
Yes.
Okay. All right. This is a new rule change. Rule 1-8. Goalkeeper's restricted area. The trapezoid will be expanded by 2 feet from the goal post on both sides of the net. I got to admit, when I was at the game the other night,
Huge.
that did look awful funny, in that area.
Yes, it's a foot from each
Yeah,
side.
yeah. But anyways, so that so the goalie can't come out and shoot the puck in that area.
Right.
Okay, Rule 23. Game misconduct penalties. A new game misconduct category will be created. Clipping, charging, elbowing, interference use. It sounds like football.
Yes.
Kneeing, headbutting, and butt-ending move from the general category into the same category as boarding and checking from behind, whereby a player who incurs 2 such game misconducts in this category would now be automatically suspended for 1 game. Okay. Rule number 24, the penalty shot. The spinorama move, as described in Section 24.2, we've seen them, the fancy turnaround stuff like that.
Penalty shot,
Yeah,
or
the penalty shot and the shootout.
And the shootout.
Yep,
Okay.
will no longer be permitted either in penalty shot situations or in the shootout. So I don't know. Some of the younger fans I know are going to be a little disappointed in that, because I know that all the kids. I know my son was one of them too. We'd be taking shots in the backyard, and he'd be there, messing around doing the spinorama, trying to loop the puck onto a stick and stuff like that. But
Well, I'm against the shootout. Always have been.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. It's entertaining. But if they're gonna make it part of the game, make it entertaining.
Right.
So now, not only are they taking the entertainment out, but they're making me even hate the shootout more.
Right.
Because it just, to me, to play a 65 minutes of hard hockey, and especially if it's against a team that can make a difference in the standings, and you lose because of a shootout, that's terrible. But you go and say, hey, you want to win that game, and win it before the shootout.
Right. Oh, one thing that they are going to do with the shootout this year is normally when it comes time for the shootout, when they come out and they clear the strip of the ice there so they can shoot, the coaches usually have to give the referee a list of the first 3 players who are going to be shooting. Well, now they don't have to do that anymore. So, I guess it depends on the situation. If you get down by a goal right off the bat, you may want to have somebody go in there who, is a little bit better in the shootout circumstances and may possibly be able to get a goal. So that's one thing. Let's just moving along here.
I don't know why this phone's on.
There's another video goal judge, Rule 38.
Yes.
Video review will be expanded in the following areas. It's been modified to allow broader discretion to hockey operations to assist the referees in determining the legitimacy of all potential goals. Like, example, to ensure that they are good hockey goals. The revised rule will allow the hockey operations to correct a broader array of situations where video review clearly establishes that a goal or no-goal call on the ice has been made in error. The new expanded rule will also allow hockey operations to provide guidance to referees on goal and potential goal plays where the referee has blown his whistle or intended to blow his whistle after having lost sight of the puck. In reviewing kicked-in goals, hockey operations will require more demonstrable video evidence of a distinct kicking motion in order to overrule a goal call on the ice or to uphold a no-goal call on the ice.
Right. I like that rule because there's too many times where a player, if you're intentionally directing the puck, it's one thing.
But if it just deflects, that's
if
another.
It deflects, sometimes you're trying to, the puck hits your skate and it goes in.
Right. Yeah.
So it's good they're using discretion
Right.
on that.
Yeah, because we've seen a couple of calls, on both sides of the rink where that happened, and it's like you can tell that the guy didn't intentionally put his foot there with the motion, but that's how they called it. So at least this way now, I think it'll be a little bit more fairer. This is one that we just talked about, the Rule 57, tripping. The rule related to tripping will be revised to specially provide that a 2-minute minor penalty will be assessed when a defending player dives and trips an attacking player with his body, arm, or shoulder, regardless of whether the defending player is able to make initial contact with the puck. But in situations where a penalty shot might otherwise be appropriate, if the defending player dives and touches the puck first before the trip, no penalty shot will be awarded. In such cases, the resulting penalty will be limited to a 2-minute minor penalty for tripping.
Right. That's a good upgrade, too, because you get these guys in the last-minute defense when he slides across the ice, almost like a clip in the NFL. You know?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of diving.
Yeah, we're at that one right now. Rule 64, diving embellishment. The supplementary discipline penalties associated with Rule 64.3, diving/embellishment, will be revised to bring attention to end more seriously penalized players and teams who repeatedly dive and embellish in an attempt to draw penalties. Fines will be assessed to players and head coaches on a graduated scale, and it's outlined below where, okay, your first incident is a warning. Your second incident will be a $2,000 fine. Your third incident will be a $3,000 fine. Then, on your fourth incident, the player will be fined $4,000. The coach will be fined $2,000, and then it goes all the way up to number 8, where they're all, the rest of them from 4 to 8 are all from 5 to 8 are all $5,000 fines, and the coaches will be fined anywhere between $3,000 and $4,000. Rule 76, face-offs. To curb delay tactics on face-offs after icing infractions, we've seen this where the team, they either can't call a timeout or they don't want to call a timeout or they already used it. They try to stall by, having the centerman, the face-off, do a couple of infractions and then eventually get thrown out. But in situations where the defending team is guilty of a face-off violation following an icing, the defending player who is initially lined up for the face-off, he'll be given a warning, but will be required to remain in the circle to take the face-off. A second face-off violation by the defending team in such a situation will result in a 2-minute minor bench penalty.
Right.
So that, I think that will, and I think that'll also quicken up the game a little bit too,
Right. Because that's what they do. They have
Right.
a winger come in
Sure.
just to delay, intentionally get thrown out of the circle.
Right.
And just to give the team that 2-second, 3-second rest. It works.
Right, exactly. Okay, Rule 84 in overtime. I think that this is a little bit interesting, and it's funny. I've talked in the past about this too, okay? Teams will switch ends prior to the start of the overtime in the regular season. So basically, you'll be like in the second period when it's going to be the long change. So, that may possibly entice a little bit more scoring opportunities on one of the sides. And also, too, the entire ice surface will undergo a dry scrape prior to the start of overtime in the regular season. I kind of like this because, they can they have a 3-minute timeout, okay, in between. They can come on with the 2 Zambonis, and within 5 minutes, they can do a dry scrape just to clean up the ice a little bit. So then that way also, too, when they go into the shootout, I don't think that they're going to have to do that strip in the middle. And also, too, I mentioned this, too, the procedure requiring the head coach to submit a list of the first 3 shooters in the shootout has been eliminated.
Right.
Yeah. And another rule, too, is Rule 85 now, puck out of bounds.
Right.
There have been further rule changes made relating to face-off locations to avoid penalizing teams for plays intended to create bona fide scoring opportunities. Specifically, the following are categories of plays where face-offs will remain in the attacking zone despite the fact that the attacking team was technically responsible for the stoppage in plays. Shots at the net by a player on an attacking team where the shot breaks the glass, or the shot goes off the side of the net and deflects out of play,
Right.
and the shot goes off the dasher boards of the glass and deflects out of play. The shot is tipped or deflected out of play by a teammate, and the shot becomes wedged in or on the exterior of the goal net. In addition, the following rule change will be enacted for the 2014 preseason and may be continued for the 2014-15 regular season if approved by the league and the NHL Players Association.
So basically, the non-intentional out of bounds calls, rather than being in that team zone, they're
Right.
bringing them out to the dots.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, let's face it. I mean, if you take a shot and the shot hits off the crossbar and it goes out, I mean, you know, the post is part of the rink. You know,
Right.
I mean, it's not like that the guy just drilled the puck and it just went up. You know,
Right.
I mean, it hit off of something. You
Right.
know, so I can see that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it'll also create some more offensive opportunities, obviously, with the face-off in the zone. And the last rule is Rule 1.9, rink and face-off spots and circles, ice markings, and hash marks. The hash marks at the end zone circles will be moved from 3 feet apart to 5 feet apart and 7 inches apart. Those are the international markings that they usually use in. They always use them in the Olympics.
Yeah. Well,
So-
thank you for that. Those are the rule changes. Nothing drastic, but I do like the diving.
Yeah, yeah,
The Canadians are going to
yeah. It's going to
have
be
an empty wallet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Unless they smarten up, you know. I mean, you know, it's funny that PK Subban. You know, I mean, is he a good player? Certainly he is. You know, but I think that he could be a great player if he stopped this. You know, these diving antics that he takes. You know, and
Oh.
and you know, it's just too bad for a guy that talented. He doesn't need to do that.
And the saddest part is it's coming from Montreal, the team that has so much history and where hockey was created, and it's like of all teams to be
Right.
embellishing and they're
Right.
ruining the very game that they created.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Rocket Richard is turning over in his grave
He
for
has to
sure.
be.
I'll tell
He
you
has
that
to be.
much.
I mean, that's probably why this rule was implemented. It's pretty bad that it had to be changed because of, you know, they're not the only team doing it,
Right.
but they are the most well known for
The
it.
most flagrant, that's for sure.
Oh, and exactly. Like you say, you think they got shot. Some of
Oh,
these
yeah.
plays, the way they got down and
Yeah.
embellish.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I mean that, and I think, and I do like the overtime changes with the cleaning of the ice and
Right.
the changing of the zones. So I think that, you know, and hopefully too, it'll be nice too that maybe, you know, there'll be less shootouts because
Okay.
I mean I'd rather see the games, if they're going to end, I'd rather see them end in the overtime than the
Right.
shootout.
Well,
I
we've
think
seen that the other night.
yeah, right.
The Bruins lost in overtime again, they blew a 2-goal lead, and they lost in overtime. I forget the rookie's name. He was coming out of the corner, and he just gave the puck to the Caps.
Right.
And it just bang, next thing you know, game over. And it was just the fresh ice just made that, you know, the puck just took right off
Right.
the stick.
Right.
You know, and the announcers even said that, geez, the fresh ice didn't help him.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So it is going to make a difference. It'll speed the game up. And anyone who plays knows when there's nothing like fresh ice. It's-
Yeah, exactly.
But anything you want to add before we end today's show?
No, I think we're just about all set. In fact, actually, I'm headed to the hockey rink myself. I have a junior hockey game. I videotape games for the Bay State Breakers. They're located in Rockland, and you know it's actually the games are actually very entertaining. It costs $5 to get in, but I'll tell you what, it's the equivalent of junior hockey in Canada. I don't know as far as like the caliber of play goes, but I'll tell you what, for around here, these kids are pretty good, and you know it costs a lot of money to play in this league, but at the same time, when you see these kids out there playing, you know that they deserve a better chance than playing in the regular high school because they're all a group of all-stars and very talented players for sure.
That's great. We'll get out there and see some of those games.
All right.
In closing, I'd just like to say this is our first video. There's a few quirks. We got to get G-Hikes on the full screen.
Yeah, I'm working at it.
I've got to stop all my little twitching, and I got to unplug the phone next time. But we'll try to do these shows once a week, and maybe a couple. I'll be doing some myself, after certain games. And I hope you enjoyed the episode, and we will be coming back to you soon. And like I said, if you subscribe to our channel, we can do these live and have you Skype in. The show's in its infancy now, but we'll get it rolling. So, with that said, I'm Steve Dunley, and
I'm Gary Hakela.
that's Bees Buzz with Stevie D. Thank you. Go Bruins.
You got it.